Namaste, my name is Sanat Kumar. Welcome back to the Manana Podcast. Manana is a Sanskrit word that means reflection or contemplation. In this podcast, I'll be sharing my deep, insightful reflections for you to contemplate and hence live a life of fulfillment. I hope you find great value in today's episode. In the episode 7 Delusions That Can Hold You Back, I mentioned this. It's what the author Robin Sharma calls Vram syndrome. World revolves around me. I suggest it will be helpful to listen to that episode entirely and go through that list of 7 delusions I've mentioned there. Not-Ajnāni is one who is not suffering from that syndrome. So what is the Vram syndrome? You may notice that people who never listen or ask genuine questions out of curiosity, those are the people who are under this delusion. It's not that they think the world revolves around me. They act like it. Every conversation somehow leads to their story. It's basically that. Their version of the world is very little. Once suffering from this delusion, at the least, that person cannot see the other person's perspective, nor can they respect other person's choices. Example, if they are a foodie, they see anyone who doesn't live to eat as a misfit. Also, they think they are the only ones with life, with people who love them, a job that they love, the ability to think or problems, etc. In fact, they might not be aware of the mediocrity they are letting into their lives. Nevertheless, they like to comment on others. If you haven't heard of a celebrity they admire, they look at you as if you're alien. Even worse, as if there's something wrong with you. If it makes you feel little angry or irritant, that is the kind of person we are talking about here. That is the person suffering from Vram syndrome. So these are the symptoms or signs. The distinctions can be made easier. If a person is taking action and contributing to the community, the larger the better, then he or she is not under the influence of this delusion. If there are no aligned actions, just rambling about his or her own life, then definitely this syndrome is eating their life away without them realizing it. And realizing the converse and getting out of that delusion is very crucial to one's growth. We talked about embracing the toolkit in the last episode. That is, to be open to the idea that there may be other tools that work better for other users. Speaking of being open, I thought, why not write about being open to the idea of God for many people who are strongly a non-believer in God's existence. But then I realized it's more than just being open. Then came the idea of Atheist versus Not-Ajnāni. Becoming a Not-Ajnāni, a paradigm shift. Here, a believer is called a Not-Ajnāni because he at least knows that he is not the epicenter of this universe, whether it is God or the universe, but not him. Of course, an extreme believer might say, my God is all there is. Your God does not exist or is not significant, etc. That's all out of delusion. That's why I didn't name this episode Atheist versus Believer, because I wanted you not to have that kind of extreme person's image in mind when I say a believer. Of course, everything exists in your experience, but that is just the half-truth, right? Everyone else experiences the world too. So you as a personality are not the center of this universe. The real you that is in all of us is definitely everything. But let's not get into that aspect now. But this simple realization that you are not the center of the universe can be life transforming in a massive way. In this episode, as mentioned previously, a Not-Ajnāni is one who behaves he is just a node. A competent one indeed, but not the ultimate node. He knows the things he can't control, or simply said, he is aware of his limits. I'm not saying he is aware of his strengths here, because then we may have to consider him as a Jnani rather than a Not-Ajnāni. To a Not-Ajnāni, if it is not him, it is God. You might argue that it is purely delusional to believe that. But no, God is such a kind of concept. Sure, you can say it is nature, everything other than you or beyond you. But don't you think there is something beyond Prakriti or nature? Or wait, I'll ask you the same in this way. Do you think when you say nature, is it just the physical space and time that you are referring to? Isn't there an involvement of certain intelligence? And if you agree there's a singular intelligence in all living and non-living aspects of nature, then don't you think that the intelligence is beyond nature itself? Or that the intelligence is somehow fueled from elsewhere or from within, from a single source? Of course, I also suggest you to listen to the episode God. More to think. That is just one line of thought. Through scriptures, we can get more shreds of evidence that lead to the supreme power. I'll just suggest the examples and leave it to you. You think and see if you can connect that to the ultimate. Panchakoshas, karma, panchabhutas, what's beyond the three avasthas, gunas, body, time, what's beyond past, present, and now. And even if you don't want to or unable to think all of that, simply think of what's the ideal self you can become. Or if you know someone who is the most ideal person you've met, but you will also know he or she can also do better, right? Whether it is you or someone else, you are capable of imagining the highest level of greatness, right? If we could imagine flying and then eventually invent an aeroplane, then don't you think personal mastery is also possible? If Rama is imaginarily possible, then don't you think he could also possibly exist, given the work our ancestors have already done on personal mastery and greatness? Of course, our ancestors have worked on everything from personal health and astronomy to technology. Personal development was probably the most focused one. Everything our ancestors did was aligned with spirituality. Spirituality is nothing but the highest form of personal development. What do you think? Something is fictional only until it is a reality. You might ask me, where is Hulk or Spider-Man? You might argue that I imagine him too, but he is not a reality. Once scientists intend to work on such beings, they can definitely come up with something similar gradually as technology advances. Why am I telling you all this? To nudge you into deep thinking and eventually figure out that there's one supreme or infinite power, intelligence, and awareness that exists. You just need enough brain cells to imagine it. And just because you couldn't, don't blabber against people who could. Try harder to observe in silence how other people could imagine and even manifest their deities. Discarding all those countless real life events and experiences may be easier than going through cognitive dissonance. But just for once, imagine what if it were true. Once we acknowledge that something beyond us, the concept of God as we've adopted is a very effective system. If instead of referring to that as that and making it hard to converse, isn't it better if you are able to describe him or her and recall an image even probably? It's a great strategy, isn't it? You are not alone. Anyway, I am not here to convince you of the existence of one particular God. There are so many nuances that I am yet to figure out how to explain, but through this episode, what I like to convey in full certainty is that if you think you've got everything figured out and that you don't need any other intelligence beyond your limited brain, then you're fooling yourself. Through this episode, I encourage you to explore the concept of God and its potential impact on personal development and understanding the universe. I hope you received excellent value in today's episode. To know more, head over to sanatkumarnahibi.com, and if you haven't already, check out my book, The Flower of Fulfillment. Thank you for listening, and I wish you have a great day.